Hi, and welcome to Geeks Workings. Today, we would be discussing the problem max chain length. So now, in this problem, we are given n pairs. And let us take an example of two pairs only, because by taking the example of just two pairs, we can discuss the conditions also. So in this two pairs, we are said that the first element would be less than the second element. And this would be valid for all the pairs. Okay, so now let us move forward to the next condition. That is this B, okay, if this B is less than C, if this B is less than C, then AB can follow CD. So if I try to rephrase this statement in a more easy way, then I can say this, that suppose this is meeting 1 and this is meeting 2, and this is the start time of the meeting, and this would be the end time of the meeting. Okay, and for this also this would be the same. So I can say that this meeting M1 can be held before M2 if the finishing time of this first meeting is before than the second meeting. Okay, I can say that we just understood the condition that first A would be less than B, and after that, if A is less than B and B is less than C, and then C would also be less than D, then this A and B can follow C and D. Okay, and you can take the examples of meeting n meetings. Why? Because it would help us to understand the question in a very easy manner. Okay, fair enough. So now in this question, it is asked that what is the maximum length of the chain, okay, of pairs. But as we have rephrased this to a meeting, so we can rephrase it to maximum number of meetings we can have such that there is no overlapping of the meeting. So we need to select some of the meetings and it needs to be the maximum one. Okay. So now let us try to think about this problem. Okay. So if you think about this problem and try to recall your memory, if you have solved a good amount of problem, then you would come to the conclusion that this question is a variation of activity selection problem, and in many coding platforms it is also mentioned as n meetings in a row. And these two questions are very standard problems of greedy. Even if you have not came across this problem before, there is no need to worry. Why? Because let us focus on the intuition, how we can think that we can have the maximum numbers. Okay. So now, suppose we don't know that it can be solved using greedy. Okay. So let us try to think what would be the most optimal way to pick up elements from n meetings. There are the first way that would come in your mind is that I would try to select the meetings which take the smallest amount of time. I can think in that direction. So I can say that span of time of the meeting would decide how many meetings we would accommodate. But now try to think of a situation where there are many meetings, like one difference, two difference, or three difference. Like the first meeting would take one amount of time, second meeting would take two amount of time, and third meeting would take three amount of time. Okay, and the next meeting is also taking one and then again two. Okay, but suppose this meeting is held as from 1 to 2 because this has only one amount, and this meeting is held from 1 to 3, and this meeting is held from 1 to 4, and this meeting is held from again 1 to 2, and this meeting is held from 1 to 3, and then dot dot dot. So if you try to focus on the smallest unit of time taken, okay, and you try to sort it among that, like I would take this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, and this one, you won't be able to figure out why. Because there would be a test case where they all would just overlap over each other, and this idea of solving this problem would ruin us. Okay, so now next idea we can think of is, now try to think of a situation like suppose you are the manager in a hotel and there are n meetings to be scheduled. So the first was कि भैया ये बता दो कि सबसे कम amount of time कौन लेगा. And then we came to the realization part that the smallest amount of time taken might clash with other meetings too. And this won't be feasible. Okay. Like there can be a meeting which is long enough, but it is easy to accommodate. Then there are several small meetings which overlap over each other. Okay. So now the next thing we can say, those who are finishing early, tell me the chart, and I would try to accommodate in that manner. Like who would finish early? Like the first person, like like in this given example, I can say that tell me the ordering in which the one would finish first. So I can say that 5 and 24 would be the first person who would finish, and then 15 and 28 would be the next person which would finish early, and then 27 and 40 would be the next person who would finish. Okay, and then I can say that 39 and 60 would be the next person, and 50 and 90 would follow them. Okay, so now if you see this with absolute importance, then you can say that yes, I would allow them to visit. Then they have booked the room till 24, so I need to assign the next meeting after 24. So 15, no, it would clash. 27, no, it won't clash. So I would allow this meeting also. So now I would say that I need to assign the next meeting after 40. So this is 39, I can't assign that. This is 50, I can assign. So now this would change to 90. The next meeting I can assign is, that would be more than 90. Okay, so now let me repeat the crux of the solution in Hindi so that you would understand it much better. So suppose आप मैनेजर हो एक होटल के, ओके, और देन आप बोलते हो कि जो सबसे पहले खत्म कर रहा उसको मौका दो, फिर उसके बाद जो सबसे पहले खत्म कर रहा उसको फिर मौका दो, फिर उसके बाद जो सबसे पहले खत्म कर रहा उसको मौका दो. So now the solution is that we would sort according to the end time of the meeting, sort according to the end time of the meeting. Then if the start is greater than, suppose this all value, suppose this is temp, okay, temp end. So if the start is greater than the temp end, then I would assign, and the next step would be update temp end itself. So now we just need to sort and we need to just update the temp of end. But there is more to it. We would talk about the sorting part in detail in during the implementation. So now let us move to the implementation, and it would help you to understand the solution much better. So now we are given in the form of struct, where the first element is known as the first and the second element is known as the second. So now we need to sort it. To sort it, what we would need to do is we need to use the comparator. Now the comparator would always return Boolean value, and I would name it as CMP, and then I would accept the parameters. Okay, val A and val B. Okay, And then I would say that return A dot second is less than B dot second. What did I meant by this? Now there is a very small trick to understand what is going on. Okay. So if you just remember that this just tells us that in what manner A should be placed before B. A B के पहले A B के पहले कब रहेगा? जब A का सेकंड एलिमेंट B के सेकंड एलिमेंट से छोटा होगा, because we are sorting according to the end time is the second element. So now in the same manner we can say that when do we want the A before B? We want A before B when A of second is less than B of second. And that would solve your purpose. Now let us move forward. And now what I would do is I would sort P comma P plus N and pass the CMP. Okay. And there is one more thing added to it, that I need to add static to it. Okay. Otherwise I would get an error. So now we would move forward, and I would say that int end is equals to the temporary end. I've just written an end because there is no end here. Okay, so I can say that P of 0 dot second. So what I did was just took up this element and made it as the ending time, and then I would say that yes, one meeting has been assigned, and the consecutive meetings I can just check and I can assign. This is what I'm doing. Because even in the worst scenario, at least one meeting would be assigned. Because there is room ending, whatever time it might take. Okay. The only constraint we have is that it shouldn't overlap. But there is no constraint of how big the difference is. So at least there would be a value 1. Okay. So definitely this won't disrupt the answer in any of the test cases. So now we would move forward, and I would say for int I is equals to 1, because the first element is already processed. I is less than n and I is less than. Now I would say that if the current, okay, so I would just write int current end, okay, current start. The current start would be the current element starting time, that would be f of irst, and this would be just I itself. Yeah. If the current start is greater than the end value, so I would just say if current start is greater than the end value. So now, if the current start is greater than the end, then we need to update the end value. So now what was the update value? So if you observe that if we are assigning 2740, then this is getting updated to the end value of this meeting. So I can say that this time end is equals to P of I dot second. Okay. And then I would simply do C++, and then I would return the value C. Okay. Now let us just compile and run and see if we are getting any errors or not. Okay, we forgot to initialize the C. So int C is equals to 1. Why? Because even in the worst scenario, at least one value would be there. So let us just compile and run again so that we don't encounter any errors. Okay, we are not encountering any errors. Now just try to submit this and see. And yes, we got an AC. Now, if you were here till this point of the solution and you liked the explanation and you want to justify it, just comment in the video with a 1 or understood to increase the reach of this video. Thank you and have a nice day.